Game changer, alternative to traditional marketing, conversions, and ROI? Yes. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit with James Craddock of Key Difference Media, presenting the concept of NFC swag and NFC near field communications. You get your lessons today here on Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Good morning, everybody. Good day, and welcome to Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. I woke up early today getting so excited about this event because we're introducing a new concept, and it's something that you're going to want to check out. My name is Roland from MinMax Media, presenting DIYLivestreamingshow.com and the Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties show. And today's show is dedicated to the concept of NFC, which is called near field communications, and you're going to learn a lot about it in just a little bit. We're going to have a special guest, a couple of special guests, and you're going to be able to ask questions and you're going to get answers live right here. So hopefully you're joining, and if you are joining, then please leave us a chat so we know you're there, and tell us who you are, where you're coming from. Say hi. And we want also to say hi our comment wrangler today, who is Tim Longwell. And come on board, Tim, and unmute your mic and tell a little bit about yourself, if you will.
Hi, Tim Longwell, Longwell Art, oil paint artist and instructor, and we help you reignite your creativity for your health and happiness. Very
good. Thank you, Tim. And we also have another special guest before our primary guest, and that's Lynn Sanders. And Lynn has been on this show several times. We interviewed her a couple of months ago, and she's a very, very good interview from Difference Makers Media. Lynn Sanders, come on and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with Roland and all our special guests. I'm Lynn Sanders, a story marketing mentor at Difference Makers Media, where we help you bring your stories to life through writing and online media and social media marketing. And I am very happy and excited to have connected our guest, who Roland's going to introduce to Roland, with this amazing breakthrough technology that's going to change the way we communicate online. So thank you again, Roland.
That pretty much sums it up, and the reason why we're producing this show. It is actually a series of shows because we figured we can't possibly convey you the real potential of what this concept can do without stretching it out more than one show. So we're probably going to have a second and a third show. But this one today is to introduce you to the concept of what NFC and near field communications is. And for that purpose, we had a person specially invited in to bring you his knowledge of near field communications. So James Craddock from Key Difference Media, please come on board here, unmute your mic, and tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. Thank you, Roland, for inviting me. Lynn and Tim, thanks for being on. My company is NFCSwag. It's an outgrowth of our full service digital media company, Key Difference Media. And collectively, with the resources that we have and the strategies we built around content marketing over the years, when NFC came along, it was something that you could say we were already waiting for it to happen, and the light bulb started turning on, as it will for you, as you kind of understand how the simplicity of this technology shifts the paradigm enough to where you can develop all new approaches to revenue streams, operational efficiency, sales and marketing, etc.
Great. Thank you, James. And by the way, Lynn introduced me to you and is kind of like the catalyst for all of this coming together. And we've been speaking and talking about this in depth quite a bit. And it's very possible we might even be teaming up at a bit of a project surrounding this concept because it's very, very exciting. It matches the spirit of what we do. And it's very much indeed going to be one of the new wave things that comes around. So let me get back to my notes here and see if we can follow the proper order of things. Well, a couple things that I wanted to accomplish today. First of all, I wanted to effectively explain what NFC is, and we're going to get into that in a moment. But the other thing that we're going to do is we want to plant some ideas for people watching and listening. What is NFC and how it can benefit you? When I say you, it's going to be in various stages. It's something that appears to be not cheap, but when you compare it against traditional advertising, we talk about investment well deserved. This is maybe the most impactful dollar spent that can possibly happen in the marketing world right now. And the difference in the influence and the effect and the impact you can have with NFC is tremendously more than a Facebook ad. And that's why I'm like the A side and the B side. Well, we are on the new side that shows me that there is a future for marketing and advertising by using this methodology. So now we're going to turn it over to James, and I want you to tell everybody, please describe a basic fundamental, what is NFC and how just explain what it is so that people can kind of understand it.
Okay, sure thing. NFC is near field communication, and near field meaning that on a phone there is an NFC chip inside that, once activated in your settings, is emitting an RF signal that really doesn't go more than a couple of millimeters outside of your phone. So it's an RF signal that is always being generated while your phone is on. And when you touch the phone to an NFC tag, that tag has been programmed with a URL or possibly a phone number and some other there's a lot of different triggers, but we are primarily concerned with the URL. It's been programmed with that URL, and that field comes into contact with that chip. And what's interesting, and I'll just show you one if I can. You'll see in the middle the chip, and around it is a circle. That circle is an antenna. So when your phone comes up in contact up against it, that RF signal saturates the tag. The antenna picks it up. It literally energizes the chip in the middle, gives it power, and I like to say it just kind of burps up that URL back into the phone. Once the phone receives it, the phone knows, because of the NFC technology, to then open up a browser and take you to that URL. So the result is that you can, with a phone that is turned on and logged in, tap on any NFC tag, and it will then open up a browser and take you to whatever that URL is. And of course, that URL could be anything from a Facebook page or other social feed. It could be a website, a custom dashboard. You could take somebody directly to one of your products for checking out. There's a lot of flexibility in what you can do with it, but that's the basic concept. So it's basically, it's a new entry into a sales funnel. It's a new entry, a new way to allow people to get to your URL without typing, etc.
So effectively, what this becomes is another way to link to a website or link to a movement or link to an app. So it's just a different methodology to get leads and to get people to take action. And in this case, if they put their phone on something and then they see it on the phone, all they got to do is tap with one finger and they could join into whatever, and go to the go to the resource or the page or the URL that we would normally send them from a link, and then try to get people, talk them into clicking the link and being interested in the link. That's another story completely. Sorry.
So if you think of the QR code, and now Apple on their iPhone 8 have a native QR code reader built into their camera, it's a similar concept. You used to have an app, you tap the QR code and it would take you somewhere. What gives NFC its primary advantage there is you can hide it. You can take an NFC sticker, put it right behind a poster, and it's going to work through the poster or the plastic, you know, whatever it is that you've utilized. Just don't use lead. I don't think that works. But QR codes are, you know, messy and ugly. An NFC chip can be completely hidden if there was a distinction to make. Otherwise, they function similar ways in directing you to a URL, if that helps somebody understand.
Yeah, so the flexibility is such that people wanted to make an NFC tag into a sticker, then they could take the sticker, peel it off, and put it anywhere they wanted to, and then the sticker, wherever it was, on their computer, on a book, on a tablet, in their wallet or whatever, the sticker performs the same process then and brings up the URL on their smartphone. So this eliminates a lot of the concept of trying to generate leads in the traditional fashion. Lynn had a question.
Okay, I wanted to show everyone what James had sent me through the mail because I was showing this to a colleague of mine. And so I'm the only one, I guess, that has it at this moment. This is called a Phonester, Phonester, and it's a phone holder with the embedded, and James, correct me if I'm wrong here, with the embedded chip.
With the NFC tag embedded in it, correct?
Yeah, you can put your phone on here, tap your phone, and it's working in all the Android phones, and as I was told, the Apple 7 and 8s right now. And when you tap your phone, it will activate the NFC chip and open up into an experience that you pre-program. Also, James had sent me this round POG, which has the little tap here embedded chip. Is that correct, James?
Mm-hmm. That's a sticker that we just placed on the back of a POG. Usually these stickers are transparent. That one happens to have Thin Film's branding on it. But yes, same concept. So you can put that sticker, and the reason it's NFCSwag, you can put those chips on anything. What she's holding there is a phone holder, which is obviously, and that's a premium product, and obviously that connection becomes very consistent with somebody who's using it as a phone holder. The advantage of the other tags, such as putting them on POGs, etc., is more powerful in the idea of distribution and creating a dense network of a lot of tags, because these are less expensive, supplied by we use plastic printers for these particular kind of POGs. But you can also see in something like this, which is just a little, you know, you might see this on a bottle, a water bottle or something that you hang it on. And we've seen these kind of coupon things before. But now with an NFC tag on the back, you could actually tap, you know, you could be in the store, you could tap that, and you would be able to get information about the water, you know, what kind of vitamins are in it or what they're putting in it these days. So how you apply the NFC technology is really up to you. We can now source any kind of swag under the sun through many different vendors, etc. So if somebody wanted part of their story to be sunglasses, and I like to use the example of Corona, if they had a campaign where they gave away little swag plastic sunglasses, which my son loves when he gets these kind of glasses because he's a saxophone player and he's goofy with them, right? But you could literally put a tag on those glasses, and now they become something that you can tap and enter that experience with as well. So the form of the physical swag aligns with the message, but the beauty of the POG is, for an inexpensive approach, you can put whatever you want on them simply by printing. And we can do die cut tags, POGs, a whole variety of shapes and sizes around the idea of a POG. So that's why it becomes such a fluid piece. But then you can move into the Phonester, get a larger branding surface, and also have the back end, also have this functionality, if you will, in the physical world that does something. This was pretty uniquely designed by a group of top-notch engineers. It's being produced out of China in volume, and the branding on these are beautiful, but it doesn't have to be any specific piece of swag, as long as that piece of swag aligns with your marketing message and the approach that you want to take.
So let me imagine, this is my imagination going nuts a bit, but and this might not even be a practical application, but I just want to know if we can do it. So let's say Target stores decide that they're going to channelize their entire store and have these things all over the place and segment it so that if, depending upon where the people are in one department, there's all these stickers placed in predominant places where people can go up to the sticker and put their phone there and find out what's on sale in that department. And then they can reprogram reprogram the chip so that it's different every week. So every time people come in, they tap in and they got a new message and they got a new discount or new sale promotion from that department. They could do that, and they can segment it to the various departments in the store. Does that sound logical?
So let me back up in the history of NFC just for a moment to kind of capitalize on what you just said. NFC is not a new technology, just the emergence into the space that we're working in, into popular culture as well. Now that iPhone supports it, that's what we're kind of experiencing. But for well into a decade now, they have been utilizing NFC technology in manufacturing. And they use it that way because they can now put NFC, an NFC tag can accompany every component of something that's being manufactured. And an entire manufacturing facility could literally build multiple type of products without ever having to create a manufacturing line, because each product shows up, the NFC tag says, this is who I am, what I am, this is what I belong to, and you just take that same, mechanical functionality and apply it to whatever, thing is sitting on to the left of it that it needs to be applied to, so that they can create segmented manufacturing, if you will, which does an amazing thing for your inventory and your components and all of that type of delivery. Then they moved into a market with tags similar to this, and these tags have a long strip on them so that they can go on top of a wine bottle and then be bent down with the label around it. These tags allow you to sense temperature, date, and several other factors. So when you tap it, it will tell you, yes, this is an authentic bottle of liquor. It is never been below a certain degree and above a certain degree during shipping. And its manufacturer's date is this, so that just by tapping it and your screen turning green, you go, oh, this bottle of wine is good to go. And the reason that's come about is because a lot of fraud in the wine industry, since there's now a wine exchange, etc. It's gotten so bad that has been the cure, if you will, for that type of fraud. So from manufacturing to that, and the reason that upper echelon it's happening in the liquor industry is primarily because of, number one, the demand, and number two, the money that's available to fund those early projects. So as it moves into our space, we get to kind of gather some of that understanding and apply it to the way that we want to go about using it. But yes.
Oh, wow. That was one of the longest yeses I've heard. But it draws the conclusion that it's a very practical thing. And I believe it's extremely cost effective. I think to devise this methodology to communicate with people, and then everything else is handled on the computer, there's a lot of beauty there. You produce something that's always evergreen, and then can change the link, change the content you deliver to the user at the lowest level. Anytime you want to, you can change the promotion or change the link.
So what you're getting at is kind of the heartbeat behind the value of NFCSwag, in that we are partnered with Thin Film as our NFC tag supplier. Thin Film provides the end user and myself a interface that has a world map on it, as well as other segmentation to allow you to get live analytics. So if you have 1,000 or 10,000 tags that are distributed in a very specific vertical, and you're watching those tags, you can see when people tap in the moment they tap in. So it gives you a very clear sense of the kind of engagement that you are having. Now on that back-end software, you can set up campaigns that are run by date and run by geographic location. And what that means is you could set up a calendar to literally change the URL of all those tags every single day. Or you could segment those tags by individuals, groups, demographics, whatever, however you strategized your launch, you could segment those tags and only change certain URLs. This creates tons of opportunities, but one of the big ones is called episodic campaigns. And that means that you could literally, Lynn, have a client who wants to tell a story, and they could tell their story in segments. Or maybe a client who has 300, 400 blog posts that they have been, laboring over for many years. They can repurpose that simply by programming into this back-end software the URL for each date that they want to move people through a blog, through a number of blog posts to create an engagement. And that's that engagement piece is the kicker. The POG, the NFCSwag of whatever it is that you're using, when they tap in, if it just took them to a static page, they tap in the one time and, pretty much not need to go back. But if they get in and they recognize I have options, this content's changing all the time, etc., then that compels them to want to continue tapping in. And whatever that content is, it needs to resonate with what's on the front of that tag, because this begins the conversation in their mind. Then after they have the experience, it reinvigorates, as you're so good at, Roland, always reminding us that, hey, you got to hit that emotional epicenter. And so it becomes this, as we call it, a phygital, and that's the founder of Phonester created that word. I will not take credit for it. He is an awesome marketer, but it's a phygital experience from phygital to digital, or from physical to digital. And when you do that, that's the very element that shifts the paradigm, because it becomes a whole new process that way. But
I wanted to interject a question, and it looks like Tim has also brought up a question. Everyone listening, feel free to ask questions or make comments, because to me, I never heard of anything like this before. And I think NFC is still so new that probably most people have never even heard of anything like it, even though it's on all the Android phones and on some of the Apples. But I wanted to ask you a question, James. And I thought the word phygital was so perfect because it's physical and digital. Has anything ever comparable been like this, before NFC? Because, we've seen the QVC codes, but it's not the same. And the whole idea that you don't need a computer, you just need your phone to open up into an experience, to me is pretty amazing. So can you answer the question, James? Is there anything else comparable to this?
So you mentioned the QR codes, which would in the physical world have been the first kind of real element that kind of did this. And actually, if QR codes had this native programming in the cameras all along, we may never have seen the emergence of NFC. Hard to say. But that would be the first one. But I take you back even further, and Roland may chuckle when I say this. But do you remember the image maps that we used to make? And I don't see them anymore very often. I don't ever use them. But an image map that you would make for your website. So you could create a large, let's say you created a web page that had the United States on it. And anywhere time you clicked a different state, and you still see this, like insurance companies, where it takes you to a different page. That's probably the first time that concept ever came about. But if you really look natively at what we're doing here, we're creating just a means of communication, right? A channel. We do that. We've always done that. What this kind of creates is the ability to manufacture I like to call it a beehive, the best possible beehive. And then you're giving people a physical way to engage that beehive, and the result becomes people of like minds start to kind of tribally associate in a community sort of way around what essentially is just a POG or a single device. So how long have we been doing this? Again, that aspect of it is not new, but the image map and then the QR code, and now this is really, from what I've seen, the progression that has kind of led us to this similar sort of interface.
Right, but it's easy because we have something in our hand. So
Yes.
And not only that, it's easy. It replaces all these other things, and it has the contact point of passing from person to person, and the transfer point that adds the human element that digital marketing usually bisects and eliminates altogether. So the concept of the swag being a physical thing and being able to be passed on and used in the physical world, because we're not just digital. Everything is implemented through digital, but we are physical beings, and I like the link that brings humanity back into the picture. I want to go back to Tim and see if he can re-show the comment that he had and see what's happening from the field.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. I was about to do that, but then the conversation went haywire.
It took off, and I was double checking because the flow of the conversation, and it has. So I'll go ahead and bring this up, and then I'll jump to the comments and read out what the follow-up on the same conversation.
Sounds good.
Wiwick wanted to know. He says that the QR code is usable on the Moto for Lenovo's phone cameras natively, and we mentioned earlier that Apple has the same capability without an app now. But the QR code has not taken off. He asked James, why do you think it didn't take off, and why not the QR code instead of the NFC?
Sure, great question, and very intuitive to kind of put those together. The QR code, because it had the app. I remember when it came out, I was all excited. I think it was Red something was the name of the app I used. And I started even then developing, I was working at a corporate level as a data tech, and I was developing stuff in the retail world that could potentially take advantage of that QR code. But it never was accepted by our directors, et cetera, because of the fact that it would have such limited response, because people would have to understand the app, how to load it, et cetera. So that stagnated it. Now with NFC, you don't need an app. You just need to be logged in and have your settings turned on. That takes a big piece of it out. But let me address this with probably the #1 reason, and that is there was not 100% buy-in across the cell phone industry around the QR code at the level it needed to be. And now that Apple has come in and said, we're going to support this NFC technology at the level, not just with their pay swipe, but also at the level we're doing it. Now there's complete inclusion. There's 2 billion NFC enabled phones now in the marketplace now that Apple's come on. But the big thing is it went from 60% of the market having this to now 100%, or minus the phones that don't work, the older phones. But now that everybody, especially with Apple swinging the big bat, is doing it. We've seen the number of videos on YouTube start to soar. Before, the NFC marketing videos were 2, 3, 4 videos, and they were just kind of, really off the wall. Now you can go on there and it's starting to get more and more dense. And we saw that as soon as Apple made that release. So that's probably the biggest reason. And of course, Apple putting the QR code natively into their phone, people are going to be they're going to be using QR codes that way in a physical environment, and you'll see people tapping in on the NFC tags. America's a little slow to adopt. This is more popular in Australia and other countries already, where they have mass transit, where people can tap in on the transit map and immediately buy their ticket and move forward that way. So we'll see a lot of those type of things develop in the industry as well to push it forward. And I think the other reason is NFC is a physical device that there are major manufacturing companies that are profiting from it. A QR code gets printed, a little bit different, right? And so there is some centralized revenue opportunities. Plus, this is being promoted in other industries. So once it becomes mainstream, that's going to add a big piece of why everybody is going to move, towards it.
I'll grab the conch for a second. I'll tell you exactly why QR codes are not working. They are butt ugly.
Yeah, there's that too.
They don't represent anything. It's an ugly, indistinguishable icon there that doesn't mean anything. And if you see it somewhere else, you're not going to even know that you're looking at the same thing. Whereas the concept of NFC is not delivered by the tag itself. It's delivered by the vehicle, and the vehicle might be delivering a tag that is invisible, or it's laminated on the backside of something or whatever. So whatever you're handing out, whatever you're giving, has the opportunity to be as beautiful as your imagination wants and to represent whatever you want. So you can tag a deep emotion to the use of these tags, whereas QR code is just an ugly square patch of black and white. So
yep, absolutely.
That's perfect.
That's my analysis anyway. What was that, Lynn?
No, I think that's a perfect description of why this is really going to be very hot. I see someone else has a comment that Tim has pulled up.
Yeah, is continuing the question, and it touches on something that I was curious about myself. Is he keeps his NFC capability on his phone switched off because he doesn't know what the tags can make his phone do.
Very good point.
Because it does not need a deliberate action from me. The NFC scanning can activate my phone without me knowing it. Whereas a QR code has the advantage of requiring a deliberate action by the user. The NFC can be using stealthy means. So he's leaning towards what I had my question about regarding as well, is security and safety using these devices and having them turned on natively. What risk are we going to have to look at? What extra security protocols are we going to have to look at enabling or making available at different areas of development?
That definitely stirs some conversation points for me, but let's take it right to James and see what you think, James.
Sure, and that has been the conversation from the beginning that we've heard. Number one, fortunately, smarter people than me are managing the security and the encryption process of NFC or the technology. But let me give it to you in layman's terms. First of all, it's a 2 millimeter signal, so you do really have to be right up against your phone in order for that transaction to take place. That's one level of security. Number two is that the way we're using it, it's taking you to a URL. When you first come into contact with it, it pops up and says, do you want to tap in? We create that, we ensure that there is that physical acknowledgement, if you will, of clicking on it. Sure, you could tap and go straight to a website, but if you as the client are concerned with how people might receive it, you can always add that piece to give them a sense of control for their phone. And from what I understand, and the other thing is, there's a limited number of things that you can do with the NFC. You can program it with a phone number. You could program it, with the URL. You can program it with different actions that your phone can take to turn on your Bluetooth and other things of that nature. That is true. But probably the biggest safety thing is that you have to be deliberate. On a phone, there are 3 places where the NFC tag exists: up here, in the middle, or in the lower third. So when you tap, you have to make a very deliberate action against that tag in order to get it to connect. For somebody to, as we've seen, credit card, swipes are able to be read from a distance as you get walked past in the store or whatever, different fraud. I have a buddy that's pretty high up in that kind of stuff. And every time he goes to an ATM machine, he makes sure there's a 30-foot circle around him of anybody, because he's very sensitive to that. But for someone to do that in the NFC mode, they literally have to walk up and get that close to you. So beyond that, and beyond the technology aspect of how of how they manage that. I can't speak to it, but that, and then we live in a kind of a transparent society. We're becoming more adept at allowing people to kind of see through everything that we're doing. And I think that plays into the comfort level that people have along this line. Will there be fraud, and will there be an issue? I would imagine so. We're pretty inventive people when you turn the lights out and we get into our dark side. So yes, but then I anticipate the industry will come back and combat that in a means or not. But as of right now, that is the way it's moving forward. That doesn't seem to be collectively a big enough thing to keep people from wanting to tap in where it's proliferate.
At this point, I just want to remind everybody you're watching Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. It's almost not morning anymore, but just we'll take a deep breath and show you again who exactly we have on the show today and where they come from. Everyone take a deep breath. So the concept of what we're doing has definite ramifications. One of the things that WeWake was bringing up was the security, but I don't find it any more potentially invasive than turning on my computer. I've got a million ways people can invade and mess me up. And WordPress, I've had my entire server hacked. When I had things in place to prevent that, it still happened. So I had to switch servers and do all this stuff. So security to me is pretty much part of the user experience, and we have to defend ourselves with as much as we can. But certainly nothing's perfect. I like the idea that this is a user a by choice opt-in. When you come with NFC, you're purposely performing the action that will connect you. And if you're not watching out for that, if you're just connecting with everything, well, then you deserve to be hacked. That's the way I look at it.
That's a good point there. I want to also bring out another element as someone may be thinking of how these NFC pogs or any NFC swag might affect their marketing and sales efforts. One element of this, and the reason that we utilize the pogs, is because in an efficient manner, you could overlay a community with these, know where people are tapping in, etc. And now you have several thousand, maybe even hundreds of thousands of these pogs in the physical space around there. And when you do that, when you go from just taking a single pog concept and what you would use that pog for, when you go from that mentality to the mentality of, oh, I now have a network of these pogs out there, you again shift what you can kind of do with them, because now they become part, I call it a 4D network. They all kind of synthesize together. And what you do with those URL redirects and whatever your engagement, it creates a very community type of sensation that has its own life to it that goes even above and beyond the individual elements that you get from just the native advantages of tapping in through NFC. So at that point, you are now kind of an epicenter for a mindset and a message that you can monitor and affect, but you never invade, as Roland said, because the only way for them to connect with you is for them to voluntarily tap in as a result of what you are compelling them with.
I really like that part. Go ahead, Lynn.
I've been learning about all this, so I'm in a sense representing the people in the audience here who have questions, because I've been finding this so fascinating. James educated me recently on the power of using sponsors on your pogs. So for instance, I have nonprofit clients and they're always looking for help. And what James mentioned is, like, for instance, one of my prospects who I will be talking to soon could have the opportunity to have their name branded on a pog. So, James, if you want to show a pog, and then the pog could say sponsored by company ABC. And when a person taps on their phone near a pog, you can again see the sponsor by name, and you can get into a nonprofit experience. So just as people see names in an Olympic setting, Coca-Cola or whatever, this is a way to physically see a name and digitally see a name and co-brand that nonprofit experience with a corporate client. So I think it's a tremendous way of getting people to recognize the good that's happening when people come together, as you just said, a community, and seeing it and experiencing it. Is that correct, James? Did I get it right?
Yes, beautifully and eloquently put too, Lynn. Because the idea of having a community that's all engaged around a single item and then having physical and digital proof that they are engaging is incredibly powerful in front of an advertiser. I was just looking at Advertising Age, the magazine, at their media kit the other day to kind of get a sense of their ad rates against their distribution. Magazines, online, etc., 14, 15 million. If I tell you I have a Facebook page with 50,000 fans, that used to be an exciting number, but now that doesn't necessarily mean I get to talk to all 50,000 every time I engage them, right? It just means that Facebook has more leverage against me and my advertising dollars that I have to spend. So 15 million people put eyeballs on Advertising Age, right? Yet you know that that's a very low conversion percentage if you run an ad in there or whatever the case may be. And of course, all the other marketing message elements align with it. But in this case, prior to ever even launching and spending the money that you would, if you can commit to a volume of tags around a specific market and you can quantify all of that, in a sponsorship proposal, you now have the ability to go to a sponsor and say, we want to team up with you to give you exposure and engagement and live analytics. Live analytics. You can't get that out of a magazine. You could put little tracking codes on your ads and find out later, and you give them all this power, but it's in a targeted market. So that becomes a very powerful way for a sponsor to say, yes, I want to get behind that. And a $20,000 NFCSwag campaign could yield you $200,000-$300,000 in sponsorship because of the impact that it can have. It just depends on the alignment and the back end revenue that would be generated, et cetera. But like Lynn said, you have opportunity to sponsor on the POG or whatever the swag is. You have opportunity to co-sponsor wherever it goes to, right? The dashboard could have a sponsorship thing there. And then we're still using email funnels and other elements of digital marketing to further reinforce this. So you could also put the sponsor on those emails. And then we are a content marketing digital firm. So we can also create content that gets shared across their channels, up to 65 different channels, that gives them additional exposure. So for what we call a headline sponsor, you can provide them with an amazing impact at a lower rate compared to what they may be currently doing, and a lot more control over it. And what this does is it sets us up to be aware that absolutely every time you even think of an NFCSwag campaign, you immediately need to ask yourself, who can I co-sponsor this with? Because I have so many opportunities to give them visibility and engagement that it becomes kind of an expected turn that you take in what you're doing. So I like to say it's marketing that pays for itself, right? So is content marketing when you do it this way. But this gives it so much more impact, so much more immediate ability to give a sponsor an awareness of what he can do. And advertisers. I mean, there's a fine line between the two. But sure, you could put ads on you could think of it as advertising, selling advertising, or you could think of it as a partnership. Now, cause marketing is the idea of nonprofits and for-profits coming together, creating a bond in the message. So the way we currently do that, and we have programs that really make that very appealing on the digital side, but the way we currently do that is to mingle their message, to mingle their branding in the space of content, which is flexible because it's just ones and zeros and ideas and words. Well, now we can do the exact same thing in the physical world because we have this surface space of the swag to do it in. So now if a for-profit and a nonprofit, or whatever the relationships are, if you get the 1 plus the 1, you'll get a 3 out of it. You'll get exponential results, because you can mingle the power that exists in any brand, the message,
Right.
in a single place effectively. And, you know, the idea of sponsorships, if I want to put an online magazine or a physical magazine into circulation, I can sell advertising and get sponsorships in that element. I could put on an event and do the same thing. But for the cost of creating a graphic and buying some NFC swag and putting it out and starting to collect that data, I may only need 1,000 NFC pogs in circulation to suddenly be incredibly valuable to somebody selling a $10,000 item, to a real estate agent, you know, who's selling $4 million homes, etc.
I just want to interject, James. I think what's so exciting about what you're talking about is that this is an emotional experience that you're giving someone. It's not just physical pog, but once they use it, it opens up into an experience. And what excites me is that you can change that content, as you said. So maybe one week it's one thing.
Absolutely.
You're saying you're having a segmented story. So instead of someone having to go to their computer, they just have this pog. They can carry it anywhere, or they could have it on any item. And they have a story that's ongoing, and it's an experience. And the whole idea of co-sponsorship is very exciting, because there's so many people out there I know who are caring to make a difference, whether they're corporate or nonprofit. And so this brings people together in a community where they have experiences together. And I just think that's terrific. I have to say.
And that
you
experience.
nailed it. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, James.
No, you. I was going to take it somewhere else, so finish up.
Yeah, one thing I know is that we have to put you on pause sometimes, because you've got all this information stack. But Lynn nailed it when you addressed the concept of emotion and the building of communities upon that feeling. And well, now I'm hoping that Tim brought up Susan Joyce Schlieff's message, and I'm going to see right now, I'm guessing, because James, we're achieving the thing that I wanted to achieve, and that is to paint a picture that made people envision concept applicable to themselves. How does this help me? And I think Susan brought that on. Okay, yeah, see?
Yep. She says, now you've got my interest. At first, I was thinking it was just useful for local businesses. But now I can imagine speakers putting something on their table in the back of the room for people to tap in to get some free download. And then they can take that sign or object anywhere they speak.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Your imagination's going.
Well,
mine is too.
Well, I assume we're going to kind of move into this last segment of the show to talk about some applications. And the idea that a real estate agent could put, could hand out to his high-end clients phonester's and allow them to use them on the desk. A insurance guy could create keychains. So if you get in a car accident or buy a new car, you have a quick way to tap in and engage his services. Applicable to every single person. Each application creates, probably the most important part of all this, a very personal connection. So a seminar leader could even go further. He could have, he or she, and we have a couple seminar people in our network that we are discussing these applications with, carry these, yes, be able to hand them out. But what if you could take this, and he or she told everybody, take my POG and put it on your bathroom mirror. And every morning when you stumble out of bed and you're half asleep and you head into the shower area, tap your phone, set it down, and turn up the volume. And every single day, I'm going to deliver you a 10-minute Smarty message. And I'm going to encourage you. I'm going to bolster you. I'm going to enter your life, and I'm going to help you set yourself on a track for success that day. That person, that could be the only thing it does. It doesn't even come up with a page. It just comes up with an audio file that every day the URL, is changing so that you're getting the fresh content. Unlimited what you can do. But when you narrow it down to a specific market or industry or like this, a service, now you can start thinking of all kinds of ways to deliver the same thing that you've always delivered, except just through this different channel.
Okay, so two things occurred to me. First of all, going back to Susan's concept, if the speaker at that seminar or webinar, or, I mean, whatever it is, if the seminar is like people assembling in a room, but instead of having the station in the back of the room, you could have that too. But instead of just having the station, let's manufacture 1,000 pogs and give them to every single person who attends the webinar or the seminar, so that not only do you rely on the people who might walk by the back table, but when they walk in the door, they get a pog. So everybody leaves with the pog as a memento of the engagement itself.
Oh, I love that. That is a terrific idea, Roland.
And then the other thing,
or you simply use it as the delivery device and you sell them your training program, but you're selling them a pog. Here, give me $100. Here's your pog.
Oh, that's fantastic too.
That's a flip of the coin there. And
that's exactly what Susan was commenting on next. So she realized that the physical proximity only needs to be between the person's phone and the swag, right? So you could give them away or sell them for a small fee, and they can keep it at home, tap in every week, daily or whatever, to see what new offer will be.
That's right. So the concept
her mind was headed in the same direction on that.
Yeah. So what I got out of her statement before was the concept of serial casting, because we're all doing weekly shows and we're developing a stroke TV. By the way, Aaron's in the audience, and Aaron, love you guys. Thank you for watching. That was very important. I have plans for pogs and NFCSwag for stroke TV. But the concept is, if we have a weekly show or periodical, the people can get timed to tapping in at the right time and watching the show and seeing what the next broadcast was. And so, like for Smarties, if they come watch the Smarties on Saturday, but they couldn't make it, they could still tap in and see and watch the replay of the show itself. So there are a lot of applications, and it's really how we program this and how we execute that makes it worthwhile to the user. So we can serialize our shows.
Is the strategies behind it, the execution, the alignment of the message. But let me throw one more concept out there. Direct mail marketing. It changes the game immensely, because now you can physically mail a CEO or a high-end level executive, maybe a celebrity, and I have an entire strategy for doing this, but you could now physically interrupt their world with an attractive tag that's heavy in the envelope. You know how direct mail, they got to get you to open it. It's a process to be successful at it. You feel that hard thing in there, like a credit card company would send you a fake credit card. You get it, you get engaged with the image. You realize all you got to do is tap on it. And as soon as you tap on it, there I am. Hi, how you doing? To that person and giving them the message that I want to give them, or I'm showing them a video or whatever the case may be.
That's amazing.
But, that piece there becomes,
So that's a highly targeted trigger device.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And very engaging.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So in direct mail, you've really taken us full circle back to what advertising and marketing roots are all about.
Now that I think about it, and I've done this, I did this when I was in the Navy. I was abroad, and I wasn't a female. I was moving around, and we got bored. And so in my boredom, I thought, I wonder if I can send a placemat through the mail as a letter. Can I send a Christmas card that I cut in half and just put an address on? And I could. I sent it back to myself, and I got them, and I went, oh, the mail will put these things through. You could literally create a single postcard or any kind of NFC swag that's exciting with an NFC chip embedded in it, to where they never even have to open the envelope, and then they tap in and, of course, get that same experience. So
that's great.
When you shift this paradigm on a specific application, kind of like the idea of tapping in and getting a story read to you every morning, you would actually need an electronic device manufactured before. You'd need a whole bunch of, everything set up, $1 million worth of startup costs to create that kind of application. And suddenly you don't have to have it. You could set up a franchise for your business without ever going through franchise, processes, because and the ability for them to pass them out and to engage with their clientele, et cetera, brings them always back to a place that can have all the information, et cetera. That was a thing that we kind of brainstormed the other day, so I'm not going to go into it. But yes, anything that you think of the application, and then think of how you can use NFC as a direct connection to it, and you'll suddenly find happening in what you can, how you can use it, what you can use it for.
Wow.
Real quick question before we wrap up. Somebody in the audience asked it, and it's been running through my head. So what are we looking at cost per unit, roughly?
We're just going to bring that up.
Sure. What do you want to pay? No, sorry, that's the marketer in me coming out.
Well, as a marketer in you know what the default answer to that question is.
As much money as you've got,
which is what the market will bear.
Which is what the market
will bear.
Or as little as you can get away with, depending on who you're marketing to.
Right. Well, and so in our model, first of all, this is intended. I have a passion for helping artists and performers and entertainment people be able to break in. And now that the industries are going independent, they need something that's cost effective to get started. If you're a corporation doing this, sure, this is great, but you still need content marketing. You still need your funnels. None of that, like Roland said earlier, is going to go away. But if you're just somebody who can't afford but a few at a time, it at least gives you a means by which to create ROI that you can continue to add to your marketing. A POG like this and these plastic POGs, the smallest one we currently produce is 2.5 inches. On the cardstock, I can get down to 2 inches. Currently, the tags are too big to get anything smaller than that. The using cardstock or even the plastic ones in volume, I can get them under $1. I can get them under 50 cents if everything works right? So that becomes, I can't currently do it for 2 cents, but I can do it for a cost that, because you're not trying to hit 10,000 people to get 2, you're giving it to 2 people to get 2. So much more targeted that way. I mean, you may only buy 1. Send it to the right person, they tap in, you make the connection, you're done. That's a possibility. So anywhere from, I'd say in volume, $50 up to a couple dollars a piece. Currently the Phonesters, because this is a manufactured product with the tag embedded, et cetera, and the back end of these, the way they're designed, we're looking at $8 to $10 a piece. But if you go buy regular corporate swag, you're paying $8 to $10 for a lot of the things that people pass out just so they can get their brand name out there. Not to mention the
t-shirt's $10. So, the cost factor is something that faces us, but we're not considering the effectiveness of the promotion
and the sponsorship. You can offset your costs with the sponsorship. So if I can get Nike to breathe life into my campaign, I don't care what the cost necessarily of the NFC swag is, because they're going to be able to quantify what it's worth to them on the back end. Then you just find the right matchup. The tags, they don't run a lot, and they're getting cheaper all the time. So eventually the tags will probably disappear, and all swag will be NFC enabled. That's what I predict. I'm not going to be the only guy sticking the NFC on swag, but I will always have my strategies and our marketing approaches to leveraging it. I can't wait till they do that. Then I can just buy any old swag and make any old NFC enabled swag and make a campaign with it. Right now, we're using plastic printers to do our turnkey assembly, but that won't always be the case.
But James, is there some setup fee also, because just having a POG has to be set up with the content?
Right. There is that. I'm working towards getting it to where anybody could just buy one POG, no setup fee, and utilize it. Right. Not there yet, but very close. That is the intention, because if I can't make this so my 12-year-old son who's got a YouTube channel can buy 5 pogs a week, or the Boy Scouts, what we're doing now, give each Boy Scout 5 or 10 pogs to pass out during the week and then come back and get more, then I'm missing the boat on where the real power of this is. But that will come as larger corporations move forward and as we continue to, and we're really close now. I might even be able to do it before, you know, the next month is out. So it's not too far away. But yes, currently I have a setup fee because there's a lot involved with getting it going. But we're gonna streamline that.
So on the practical
that's what
side,
it's all about.
you know, on the practical side, James, we're trying to make this concept available to whoever wants to participate, and also affordable, so that even if they want to buy a few of them, or maybe lots of 100, we can make it effective. And then if we design the plan of usage properly, no matter how they buy it and how they implement it, they can make it profitable to themselves and beneficial.
And I will leave you with this, though this may miss some people, but go study how cryptocurrencies work, because they're coming on as fast as NFC is. Dubai just issued the first national cryptocurrency last week, and another one was just launched based on sports figures. So that's coming on, and that's a community of people that share their value to create value in the network, and it's simply then the vehicle is that coin, and the vehicle can become this. That is a similar that's a similar kind of community setup that you find available to you around the pogs.
Great.
You can have fun with that. I won't go any further.
So guess what? We are over time as of right now, but so we're going to display this question from somebody or a statement, but I don't even know if we're going to take time to answer it. I believe we won't. But what I would encourage you to do, James, if you would go through the comments and maybe reply to the person making this comment, and we might even have it in further discussion at another time. And because we're really pretty much out of time. But here's what somebody said. Oh, Susan, again, could the chips be deactivated in the mail? And now, so that's a complex question as far as what you're referring to. But apparently the answer is no.
It's a hard-coded IC. That is a physical integrated circuit. So if you have a way of decoding those, sure. But other than that, no, that's another aspect of it, the durability of the tag.
Oh,
and they can be flexed and bent, and quite a few things can happen to them before they break down.
One quick thing, just if you want to get more details so we don't forget, James has a website, NFCSwag.com. That's N as in Nancy, F as in Frank, C as in Carol, swag.com to get more details and to connect with James. So I want to make sure we have that out there.
Absolutely. Awesome. And with that, we have to wrap it up. I want to encourage you to be watching for the upcoming events, because on Saturday morning, Marketing Smarties, we're going to have a next episode, because we want to expand into how you can use these concepts and how you can make it practical for you, because after all, the watchers of this show are newbies and intermediate marketers, a lot of times solopreneurs who are doing this for themselves. So what we steer you towards must be effective for the small marketer. And I believe that there's a way to do it, and I think that we're on the cutting edge of a whole new wave, just like live streaming is a new wave that we've been running for 3 years. This is the first year in a 3-year early adoption period. So be watching the show. We'll tell you more about it later. Thank you to people in the audience who have come and joined us for the day. And we're going to say goodbye for this time with Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties. Thanks, James. Thanks,
awesome.
Lynn.
Thank you.
And thank you, Tim, for helping us out today.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Roland.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being there.